So for this Sandbox episode, we're excited to bring back a conversation that we had with one of our good friends, Jerrod Maruyama. Now, if you've listened to the show for any amount of time, you know that Jerrod is part of the family, but our first conversation with him happened about a year and a half ago, and so that's what you're about to hear. We captured it initially during our Magical World of Disney themed month that we had, and it was an excellent conversation and obviously spurred on what will now be a lifetime of friendship. But we thought this would be a good time to bring this origin story back up because we are going to be visiting Jerrod out at Epcot for the International Festival of the Arts, where we're doing a meetup. Patrick, why don't you tell everybody what the International Festival of the Arts is all about?
Yeah, basically, this is year 2, and what they do, Disney, over the course of 6 weeks, brings artists from around the world to Epcot. They have, they theme different parts of the park. They have themed food. They do live events. Some are like live drawing and sketching, and some is education. And then around the lake, all the pavilions that are around the lake, they have artists all the way around. So you can go up to their booths, you can shake their hands, talk to them, buy work, get stuff signed. And it's just a, frankly, who's who of people that produce licensed Disney work. It's just incredible stuff.
It's everywhere from Jerrod Maruyama, who does that kind of that cute look of Disney, all the way to Noah Elias, who's doing the Disney fine art stuff, which is a lot of airbrushing, a lot of the classic properties in their original form that you would expect, and everything in between. It's going to be a super, super cool blast. The meetup that we're doing is going to be so much fun. We have people coming in from all over the place, from the West Coast coming over. We have people driving down from North Carolina. We may even have people coming from Bermuda to come to this meetup. I am so excited for this. It's going to be such a fun time. We did this last year, met a lot of new faces. Hopefully all those people will be back and then some. I know we're going to have Jerrod Maruyama is going to be there. Adam Grayson's going to be there. Jay Ratner is going to be there. All of those guys heavily involved in Disney and have a Disney stamp to them, as well as Lenny Terenzi, Doc Reed, or I Am Ritakiss,
Cameron, Shauna Lynn,
Tim Anderson,
oh my gosh, jetpacks and roller skates.
I know
we might have jetpacks down from Canada. And the thing is, you can be there too. So it's Sunday night. Okay, it's basically any time after 5:30 all the way to 11:30.
Yeah,
you'll be able to find us at. I don't want to say this wrong, at the Cruise Cup Lounge. So this is right outside of Epcot. And that's what we'll be. We'll be hanging out. Some of us will be like eating, having drinks, all that kind of stuff. Typically, some people kind of bring swag to give away and that type of stuff. But
I know Designo Matt had talked about doing an art swap. So like maybe bring something to trade with somebody. Yeah.
But the thing is, I mean, it's just going to be incredible time of hanging out with you guys, this online community, and really amazing artists. I mean, these are, there's going to be an incredible group of people there that just want to be friends and hang out. So be there. If you're listening right now and you're near the Orlando area, or you can make it to the Orlando area on February 11th, that's where we're going to be. Cruise Cup Lounge outside of Epcot. Join us.
Yeah, and you'll see stuff on our social media, advertising all this stuff. It's going to be coming out, and follow us on there. Go to mofonepodcast.com. You'll see it on the map. But really, come, have fun. It's going to be a great, great time. If you're a Disney fan, it's going to be all the better, but you don't have to be a Disney fan. Just come and hang out with really talented people. But with that, we're going to let you jump into the conversation, and we'll catch you after the conversation. Okay, so we're kicking off our new month of one that is, I'm like just legitimately really excited about. It is the Magical World of Disney, and we are kicking it off with a guest who we've talked about, I don't even know how many times on the show. He is the guy who has created the hipster Mickey, the iconic figure and sticker and glass and print and anything in between. He is the guy who creates all the cute stuff for Disney. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Mr. Jerrod Maruyama.
Hey guys, thank you for having me. Great to have you.
Notice how I like really kind of rushed through the last
Very
name
fast.
just to make sure.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Perfect.
We're going to even speed that up more in post so that it doesn't sound any weird. So Jerrod, first of all, thanks for being here and thanks for kicking off our new theme, and it's Disney. I mean, that's a pretty big theme. Lots of different directions we could go with it. But tell everybody who you are and what you do, and give us kind of the Wikipedia page about you.
Okay. So I'm a freelance illustrator. I went to college at San Jose State University and finished with a degree in illustration from there. I worked in the children's educational software field for a long time before going freelance in about 2006, and been working for a lot of different companies and, a lot of things in children's media and things like that. And then I started doing work for Disney's Wonderground Gallery. And since then, I've been doing a lot of freelance for different divisions of Disney. So that brings us up to right now.
Man, okay, so we're gonna dig into some of these things here. So, because you glossed over a couple of things that I feel like are pretty big deals. So to jump in with Disney, how did that relationship begin? Like talk us through the origin of that.
So let's see. I guess it pretty much started with Wonderground Gallery, which is kind of a funny place to start. They actually reached out to me in, I guess it was around 2011, end of 2011. And they asked me to participate in this new concept for a gallery that they were doing, where they wanted these really different takes on the Disney characters. And they primarily found me from just seeing my work online, seeing this fan art that I had produced and posted and things like that. So it wasn't really like an application process or anything like that. So it was very exciting to hear from them for this new concept and to be able to do different things with their characters. And that's pretty much when it started. And then from that, I was able to get a lot of work from the different divisions of the company.
That's super cool. So, you talked about how they saw your fan work. Have you been a Disney fanboy your whole life? Is this something that you've picked up since you've been an adult? Like what is it? What does Disney mean to you?
Well, it's funny. I was talking about this with them. I think everyone grows up with Disney to a certain degree. Whether you're a fan or not, you kind of get force-fed Disney at some point in your life, whether it's the movies or the theme parks or something. So it was always there. But I don't think I was a big fan until The Little Mermaid came out in about 89, I think that was. And I was a senior in high school at the time. So that really inspired me to pursue a career in the visual arts. I just knew after seeing that movie and being affected by it that whether it was animation or illustration or whatever, I knew that I was going to go into the arts as a career. So in that perspective, from that point of view, Disney's played a huge part in my life, but it was a little bit later. I wouldn't say it was lifelong.
So you said that pushed you into pursuing the arts for your career. Had you not thought about doing art or illustration as a career up until kind of end of high school?
I thought I would go into sort of, going into the arts is always kind of a scary thing.
Sure.
Both for yourself and, for your parents, and when you tell people what you're going to do and things like that. So I thought I would go into either advertising or maybe teaching and trying to do freelance on the side. I didn't know, but that movie was what sort of convinced me to go full force and do, go to college for the visual arts.
Cool. So go ahead, Patrick.
Well, as far as going to university, one thing that comes up commonly, and this is across mediums, is kind of the role that plays in a person's progression. I mean, whether it's necessary or really beneficial or kind of what the tangible benefits are, or if you should go that route. So being on this side of everything, how do you feel like the college experience has played into the art that you're doing now?
I think the best thing about college for me was learning sort of discipline, being exposed to sort of a lot of different styles. Working for a teacher is like working for an art director, just in a hopefully more nurturing way than with an art director.
Sure.
But I think that's the main thing I would say you get from school. I was a terrible student. I have to be honest about that. I was not inspired at the time to do well in school. I kind of wanted to do my own thing, and just growing up, it's a rough age to be trying to stay inspired in a career when you're sort of moving out for the first time and, having all this freedom for the first time. So, I look back on it now and I wish I had spent more time devoted to sort of learning this stuff. Because like I've said before, it's the one time in your life where you really get that much time set aside to learn a skill. It comes much harder the older you get to try to say, oh, I'm going to learn how to use this new tool or this new program. So I do regret that. School isn't for everyone, I know, but I thought it was extremely valuable. And just from those aspects of learning discipline and sort of how to take a critique.
So I was reading a comment actually that it was on one of your dribble images, and it was from Jay Ratner. And, actually the comment might have been from Raji. I think Jay commented above it, but both people we love. Anyway, Raji asked you a question, and your response was, you gave your response, and at the end you said, "I'm still using the Photoshop like I did in the '90s." So I'm curious, how do you use the tool? Because you also just said about having like a really a large amount of free time to really focus in on one element. So do you think kind of what you learned then, you've just that tool set's what you've carried forward, and most of the work you've done, you've been kind of like fitting it to the tool set you built then, or are you still progressing just as quickly? Or I guess what's that interaction between doing your art with your existing tool set versus like expanding your tool set?
First of all, I'm very impressed that you really did your homework there and you're reading the comments under the images. That's fantastic.
That's Patrick.
It's funny. I think I resisted using, it's actually Adobe Illustrator that I use for just about everything. I resisted using that program initially because it was so unlike drawing for me at the time. I think for a lot of people who use Illustrator, it's sort of this, it almost seems a sterile approach to drawing because it's pulling these points and you don't get that sort of brushstroke feel like you do with, say, Photoshop or some of the newer tools. But I was forced to use it for an internship and I got really comfortable with it. And just over the years, it's just really... I've found it's the best tool for the type of stuff that I do. It's really clean, my stuff. It's very sort of hard-edged and, gradients and things like that. But the overall shape, it tends to be about the overall shape. And Illustrator's perfect for that. So I learned it in the late 90s early on. And I've learned a few tricks since then. But for the most part, I still use a mouse, things like that. And I'm using the... kind of the base original tools. I don't get too fancy when I'm actually using it. So I think it's just like old habits, right? Because something like Illustrator gets updated so much, it feels like you should grow with it. But I'm sure there's people out there who use the paintbrush or a pencil in the same way they have since the beginning. So that's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, I mean, if it still works for you. I mean, we talked to Dan and Nathan from DKNG, and I think there was a couple things Andrew said while we were talking to them that they were like, oh, I haven't thought about doing that. And then they went back to it works for us.
Asking them how I'm like, obviously you achieved this by doing this, right? They're like, no, that probably would be a better way of doing it. But they learned to do it a specific way, and that's the way.
And if it works, like if you get the final result, then...
Right. And I think, it's been in the past, like especially recently, it's jumped very quickly with new tools and new approaches. Whereas when I was learning it took a long time before we'd see the next version of Illustrator. So you really hung on to those skills. But that's why I'm terribly self-conscious if people are watching over my shoulder as I'm working, because I know there are shortcuts and ways to do things that people that are newer to the program are like, oh, you could do that more accurately by using this tool. So... but most of the time no one's looking over my shoulder, so I'm okay.
And we've talked to other people that have found it's actually a detriment to creativity. If you're trying to learn these new skills, it kind of slows you down a little bit sometimes. If you're trying to incorporate new things into from a program like Photoshop or Illustrator, you actually lose some of the ability to create because you're stuck in the process.
Absolutely. And then there's that learning curve. It's sort of why I resisted going to a stylist, because it almost feels like you're going to have this new period where your work is going to sort of suffer because you're trying to figure out the basics of the tool. So like I said, you never have that much free time to stop and have this period of awkward work out there. So you just go with what you know. And so far it's been okay. But every now and then I'll go on YouTube and look for something on a shortcut or something like that and figure out
some tutorial.
Yeah, tutorial.
Yeah. So you talked about how you don't have anybody, you typically don't have somebody looking over your shoulder, watching you work, which I agree with you is like literally, I would rather get up in front of a million people and unprepared give a speech than, which is essentially what I do with the podcast, right? Than to
There's not a million people listening.
Have one. That's true. Thanks, Luke. Thanks for really bringing us back to reality. I'd rather have that scenario than to have one person standing over my shoulder just watching how I work, because it's a messy, messy thing. But you do have someone kind of looking over your shoulder in a way, because you've got the large eye of Disney, and not only are they looking over your shoulder, but they're approving what you do, and that's got to be such a satisfaction to know that not just people dig your work, like that's cool when other people like your work, but Disney has given it a seal of approval and it has stamped their name on it. So talk to us a little bit about the style that they saw, that they were attracted to, that you bring to the plate.
Yeah, that's a tough question, because that's a question for Disney to a certain degree. They're always looking for new approaches to their characters, new takes on their characters, because as everybody knows, there's tons of that stuff out there. There's just so many different versions of the characters and the merchandise and things like that out there. So they're constantly looking for new takes. I think my specific take is sort of this kind of Japanesey style to cute, which is slightly different, I think, than the American style of cute. And I think that might be the thing that they sort of noticed was a little different than what they were seeing everywhere else. So, I don't know exactly what attracted them to me specifically, but it's been the cute stuff that has sort of, the cute stuff and the hipster Mickey stuff, I should say, that has kept me working with the company.
Man.
Cool. So we had a question from our Slack channel, our community out there. It's from another artist, Blake Stevenson. He asked, "What's your favorite era of Mickey? Is it Steamboat, Fantasia, Holiday?"
Oh gosh. Well, I tend to draw Mickey with the dot eyes. So anything with Mickey with the dot eyes tends to be my favorite. I think. So that's probably just pre-Fantasia, I guess. I'm not sure the exact timeline on that. But like the Brave Little Tailor Mickey, I think that's my ultimate favorite Mickey design. I can certainly appreciate everything that's come since, but I think that's probably what I'm most drawn to.
Do you feel like drawn to?
Yeah,
I like
there you go.
Do you?
We'll put in like a drum,
like Mickey,
like right after that. So
yeah, it's the rim shot. So do you feel like there was a period, so Mickey has kind of gone full circle a little bit and has gone back to a little bit more of its roots and a little bit more of his classic, he's gone back to the dot eyes, right?
Yeah.
For all of his his animation stuff. Do you feel like there was a period where Mickey's style was maybe not your most favorite?
Let's see. Well, I tend to like him very much in the shorts. And then the shorts went away for a long time. And I think it was in that period that we saw him more as just as a logo or a company spokesperson kind of thing. And so I think it wasn't so much the physical design of him in that period, but it was sort of how he was used. Sure. And that's what I love about these new shorts, is that it goes back to this sort of irreverent Mickey, and just like it's a very funny approach to it, a very physical comedy approach too, that I think works really well with the character. So I think it tends to be more that for me. It's how they use him more so than the actual look of him. Because like the Mickey and Runaway Brain, that was a pretty traditional Mickey, but it's a great cartoon for them, something really different for them. So I absolutely love that cartoon.
And then now we have hipster Mickey.
And now we have hipster Mickey. Yeah, you took it right where I was going to, Patrick. So was hipster Mickey Was it a version of him that you created as a fan that then later got purchased by Disney, or is this a collaboration with Disney in your style? Like, tell maybe just a simplified version of that. Tell us the origins of Hipster Mickey.
Well, very much as a collaboration. When they approached me about working for Wonderground, doing work for Wonderground, one of the assignments for all the artists was you had to do a Mickey piece. I think the first theme was for Pixar. And then you did a Pixar piece, and then everyone had to do their take on Mickey. And they were pushing us to do, like I said, very modern takes on Mickey and something that we haven't seen before. So I just was trying to think of a way that we could ground him in the now. And I've said this before a few times, but like there was a disco Mickey, there was an 80s Mickey sort of, and he's in that, like, I don't know, like very bright colors and things like that. So I was trying to think along those lines.
A track jacket.
Yeah, exactly. How would he look now? You know, how would we sort of ground him in the 2000s or whatever? And so that's where I came up with that. I thought that was the most costumey you could go with sort of modern clothing.
Sure.
And they went with it. And we weren't sure how it was going to be received. I think everyone was surprised at the response that it has received. So, yeah, that's sort of how that came about.
And then the toys...
I was
going to say, and then the toy spun off of that. I mean, the Prince came first and then the toy.
Right. So they've just been looking for different ways that they can sort of bring Hipster Mickey to life. And the toy was a complete surprise for me. And I was so excited that they did that because I think it was a nice sort of spin-off of what we've seen so far.
Yeah, so you say that was a bit of a surprise for you. In what way? Like when they came to you and said, "Hey, we're thinking about doing this," or did they say, "Hey, this is coming out. Can you come sign?" Like, where did you fall in that project scope?
So when we do the artwork, it's pretty much up to the artist what you're going to do. Like we can sort of send them, ideas or concepts, and they can kind of pick through and think what's going to work best for the gallery. When it's the spin-off merchandise like this, it's completely up to Disney. So they come to me and they say, we're going to do a doll. We're going to do a vinyl doll. And then they ask me to do sort of the turns of the character. And so we can see all angles of it and things like that. So I was involved with it from the beginning, but it was definitely their idea to do the toy.
Dude, I love it. It's an incredible figure. It stands nicely back there with little Mikey. The two of them are just having a great time together. But we've been to we had the luxury of Luke and I did last year when we went to Comic-Con. We went to Wonderground Gallery in Anaheim, and we're able to go in and check out your work, and that's where we got some of this stuff. But I think like a third of the shop is you.
It's a good amount.
I mean, it was really cool. So I mean, to go in there and see, there's however many artists represented. There is a huge chunk of the store that is just dedicated to either your cute characters. What is the style? Like, what would you classify it as? Like, what's your name for them?
Well, I always call it kawaii because that's sort of the Japanese approach of cute. Okay. But I guess that's probably the best word I could use for it.
So you've got kind of half of your section is all the kawaii stuff and all the different the princesses and the other characters all done really cute, and then you've got just a whole section that's just dedicated to Hipster Mickey and all these different like canvas prints, and it was really cool to go in there and just kind of bask in the glory that is your work in there. So
wow,
congratulations!
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean, without over speaking, it's just really cool. I mean, I dig that style. It's just very much something that I latch onto, and then on top of that, I mean, obviously Disney has latched onto it pretty strongly. So, talk to us a little bit about some of the projects that you have that are coming up.
Oh, let's see. Well, I'm always doing stuff for Wonderground, working on concepts and stuff like that. The process takes a long time, so we tend to submit things early on, and then it just gets on a calendar, and then it gets released sort of later in the year. So most of the time, I don't even know what's going to come out when, so I never like to say too far in advance because it can change, and it often does. I'm currently working with Disney Publishing on a bunch of books for Disney Baby, the Disney Baby line, which has been a great fit so far.
Sure.
So I've been able to develop a style for that, and we're doing some books that they're just about to hit the stores. So I think within the month. Actually, I saw some of them the other day on the shelves already, but I think for the most part they'll start coming out in May. But that's a whole line of books that's going to continue hopefully for a while. So that's been primarily what I've been working on. And then there's a bunch of other stuff that as much as I'd love to, I can't talk about
yet.
Sure.
That's cool.
I tried to, typically we start that question with like, we know you can't talk about stuff, but I was really just trying to leave it open-ended so that you could just say whatever you wanted to say, and I wasn't going to stop.
He's a pro, though. I
wasn't going to plant the thought. Yeah.
So I have a question about what is your favorite Disney memory for you personally?
Oh, gosh. That's tough. There's so many. I mean, like I said, Little Mermaid was very sort of influential,
sure,
like, as far as me going to the career. So I remember that very vividly, seeing that for the first time. Going on It's a Small World is probably my earliest memory of Disney, and being very, I just loved that ride and wanted to go on it over and over again. So even from that early stage, I liked the look of that thing. But yeah, those are probably, I'm trying to think if there's something else that I'm forgetting here. I should probably have a better story in my back pocket.
No, that's okay. Those are good.
For these Disney questions. But yeah, seeing The Little Mermaid was by far the most Disney-ish and sort of influential Disney memory I have.
Cool. So
what about the first time you threw up on the Matterhorn? What about that?
So
haven't done
curious.
That yet.
I'm curious if, and I don't know if this will be Disney related or not. It does not have to be. Just as a illustrator, designer, artist, however you classify yourself, what is your favorite part of producing work? Like, what's either your favorite part of the process or your favorite part of your work day? Like, what gets you not necessarily the most excited about what you do, but what do you enjoy the most about what you do?
Well, I've always been, I'm sort of a fanboy at heart. So I love toys. I love merchandise. A lot of people can be sort of cynical about the amount of merchandise and stuff that happens with especially with Disney and things like that. But I love it. I love it all. I mean, I don't love every specific piece or something, but I get very excited to see new merchandise, new toys, things like that. So to see my work on merchandise in Disney parks and, in Wonderground as well, but specifically in the Disney parks, that has been something that I had dreamt of for a long time and never thought I would see. So I don't think I ever get tired of seeing that, and I get excited about it, and I'll, be creepy and stand off to the side and watch people look at it and try to gauge their reactions, because it never ceases to feel sort of surreal to me to see people who are buying this thing because they just like it, not because it's your mom or your friends or people but just because they're responding to the image. So I think that's what drives me a lot, is to get that response from people. And I think that's what makes me an illustrator as opposed to a fine artist, where I think as a fine artist you kind of have to not care about what people think about your work. It has to be sort of pure to you, whereas I very much have an audience, I think, in mind when I design my stuff. I want people to like it.
Sure.
Yeah. So what do you do when you know you're approaching? So that's, first of all, it's always good to hear that's the response of an artist, is that they get geeked out too and they see their stuff.
Yeah.
What you don't want to hear is someone who's like, yeah, whatever, it's old hat,
Right.
That's what we've learned a lot from talking with people on the show, is just how you guys are just guys too who get excited about the same stuff that we get excited about, and you just have a slightly larger platform for your work, and to see that you get excited about it is it's encouraging to me, because that means that maybe I'm not as nerdy as I thought I was. But your work specifically, when you're jumping in, knowing that that's kind of what your thought process is, when you're jumping into a new project, whether it's with Disney, or do you do other client work as well right now, or are you kind of locked in with Disney specifically?
I'm kind of always doing other things. Disney takes up most of my time, but yeah.
Okay, so let's say you're doing a project for Disney, and you're jumping into it. What's that creative process like for you? Maybe talk about it from two standpoints, from something that's going to be maybe merchandised in the parks versus something that you're doing that's more of an art piece for Wonderground.
So if it's merchandise from the park, basically anything other than Wonderground, they're approaching you with a concept, usually very specific. This is Disney, so it's not casual. They've had meetings before they've come to you to sort of glean the best approach for this. So it's more about then you're just really trying to give them what they're asking for.
It's execution.
Yeah, one, just to satisfy the job, but two, so that you don't spend too much time on it. That at that point you just want to get it in and done, and I think that's the case for both sides of it. With Wonderground, when I have a little bit more creative freedom and things like that, I tend to think more about, I want to be excited about the piece. So I have to find an angle or find a character or a film or something that gets me excited about the piece, and that will hopefully carry me all the way through several times. And I'm sure this is true for everyone. I'll be excited about a general concept. I'll get about halfway through it and I kind of lose interest, or it's not turning out the way that I had hoped for. And I either, scrap it, or I just put it aside for months or years until something sort of reawakens that to go back to it. But with the Wonderground stuff, it really is more about how I can maintain the excitement for the image.
So speaking of bringing up an awakening, this segues perfectly into where I wanted to take this before our final questions. Star Wars.
Yeah.
Right? So the Star Wars has been, let's say, a very lucrative purchase and smart purchase from Disney, right? So what has your transition been like as you've taken on doing some Star Wars pieces? How has Star Wars been a thing that you've been excited about as a kid? Is this something new to you? Where does Star Wars fit in the fandom for you?
That's a interesting question. And it's funny because Star Wars always comes up on this podcast, which is fantastic. I love it. And I thought it was great at Creative South how many people you actually ended up talking to that weren't huge Star Wars fans, or they're like, I gotta watch that movie. I've heard good things about it. I was just blown away. But I kind of assume everyone's a big Star Wars fan. My question for you guys is, which one of you is the big Star Wars fan, or is it that Patrick is not a huge Star Wars fan? I couldn't quite figure it out.
It's more that Patrick is not a Star Wars fan. It's not that I'm not a fan. Yeah. It's just that and I said this in the interview with Jay Ratner. I know that you know Jason or Jay. I made the comment that there's this idea that either you have to be a super fan or you don't even deserve to have heard of Star Wars, right? It's this really weird, you can't just be casual about it. And so for me, I love the films. I've seen all the films, and I genuinely, I really enjoyed them, but at the same time, I'm not a fanatic. My walls aren't decorated with it. I don't have tattoos of it all over my body. It's just something that's really above mildly enjoyable, and then that's where it kind of ends for me. And so I catch a lot of flack for that.
I see. So
mostly from Luke and I.
Yeah. So are you guys big Star Wars fans? Andrew and Luke? Are you the bigger?
I mean, I grew up in the '80s, and my name is Luke, so I didn't have a choice.
I wasn't sure. Yeah.
I did have a choice, and I still chose to like it.
Anyway, so to your question, though, I've been a fan since the beginning. I think I was 5 when the first film came out and saw it right away, and I think there's something about seeing it at that age and getting into it at that point that makes it a very different experience than when you're born almost any other time, when you're coming into it later. And there's been this, they did this study about Star Wars, how kids who have never seen the film are still very aware of who these characters are. They know Darth Vader before they've seen the films. Yeah. So that's a completely different world than to go into it as a 5-year-old and never have seen anything like this. Right. And there's not at the time there wasn't anything close to it. Whereas now I think you can see a lot of Star Wars and a lot of different things. So I was a fan forever. I was thrilled when Disney acquired them, and then when we were able to work with those characters and things like that in the gallery, I mean, that's worlds colliding right there, and I couldn't have asked for a better situation. So I feel very lucky to be able to work for Disney and do Star Wars work as well.
Did you tear up at the teaser?
Oh, are you kidding? It takes very little for me to tear up.
He's cried for half this episode, so
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's been crying through this whole episode, Luke. Just at the
my
thought
connection
of it.
must be bad then.
I'm just trying to imagine what a 10-year younger version of you would think about all of the work that you get to do now and all of the stuff you get to be a part of now. I'm hoping that 10-year younger version of you is what I am right now, and then 10 years later I've done half of the stuff that you've done, because I honestly look at you and I think your work, you are doing like my dream work right now, even though not dream works.
Right.
You're doing my dream work. Because you're working with literally the properties that completely shaped my childhood.
Sure.
And it's incredible. So we're gonna circle into our final questions.
Okay.
Luke, why don't you kick us in?
Well, mine is super easy. I think I know the answer, but what is your favorite Disney character?
Yeah. See, I knew that was gonna. It's funny. I absolutely hate that question. And I know why it comes. It's a common question.
It's a common
I've heard
one.
you guys I've heard you asked it before too with other people. It's so hard, and I think Jay said Mickey too, and I hate to say Mickey because it seems so easy and throwaway. But maybe Pinocchio is another one of my favorite characters. I love the movie. I love the design of that character. That whole movie is just amazing, and in some ways kind of underrated. Like you don't see a lot of it on the merchandise anymore and things like that. But I'll go with Pinocchio.
Cool. I love it.
Did you pick up the Beast? I think it was Beast is Back. I might be wrong about that. Hang on, I'm just trying to cross-reference.
Christopher.
Did you pick up the Christopher's Pinocchio piece? Was it Christopher's?
Yeah, it was his. I think
Did you pick it up from Wonderground?
I have a postcard. I'm like you guys. I'm running out of wall space, so I've been picking up smaller versions of things whenever I can. Otherwise, it'll just sit in a pile somewhere. I did pick up. He did a fantastic Pinocchio piece.
I loved it. It was like the wooden clock, and it was. He did a fantastic job with that. All right, Patrick, what do you got?
So I actually outside of Disney, because I'm looking through all your stuff, and you're obviously a geek or nerd. You're someone that gets excited about pop culture stuff. I'm seeing stuff from Shepard Fairey to, obviously you have all the Disney stuff, but even like Mad Men, and it's all over the board. So there's, I guess, Gizmo. So what properties? That sounds like a way formal way to put it. But what properties do you also get excited about that aren't Disney? Like what do you enjoy in that other time? What do you enjoy illustrating in as far as other projects go?
Well, I think it just tends to be whatever. Like a lot of that stuff that you see on there is total fanboy art. Like it's just for the sake of doing it, not for a client or anything like that.
Sure.
And so for me, anytime I love something or get excited about something, it tends to come out in the form of a drawing or a caricature or some kind of character. So that's where a lot of that stuff comes from. And then it feels like it comes very easily because I'm excited about the property or whatever it is, like Game of Thrones or something like that, which I think we're all sort of missing right now, actually.
Yeah.
It's okay. There's friends who came over to watch it with us, and I said, you're going to have to wait because I'm talking with Jerrod. So they're waiting with bated breath downstairs right now.
So there are some properties that I'd still love to work with, like Henson. I know the Jim Henson stuff is part of Disney and stuff, but I'd love to do stuff with the Muppets. It's another one of my childhood things that I'm inspired by and things like that. But anything else, it just tends to be what I'm a fan of. It's a lot harder if I don't like something and I have to do artwork with it. But that's the challenge of an illustrator, I think, is finding a way into absolutely everything you have to work on.
Jerrod, do you have kids?
No, I do not have kids. That's why I'm able to work so much.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, for sure. That'll change. Well, yeah, because I was curious, like, where do you consume most from? Is it TV and film? Is it do you read a lot? If you had kids, I was going to ask you, like, if it came through that. But, yeah, where do you typically consume from the most?
I think most recently it's been online. From whether it's Twitter or Facebook or things like that. I that tends to be where I hear about things, I guess I should say. I'll watch TV, but I'm not a big TV watcher where I'm just sort of, watching whatever's on. Like I tend to prefer to stream or, binge watch something so that you're always watching something you want to see. But I tend to hear about it online.
Surfing.
Yeah, exactly. That drives me crazy. So if I hear things online or I'll hear a review about something or someone says, something's getting a lot of buzz, I'm always interested to check it out. I might not like it, but usually it's worth checking out. So that tends to be where I get myself. Working on my computer all day, I'm always looking for a reason to procrastinate or not work. So that's why it's always Twitter or Facebook or something like that I'm looking at.
So what I'm hearing is even people who get to work with Disney and for Disney on stuff still look for reasons to procrastinate.
Absolutely, all the time. You would,
okay.
Yeah. Never. I don't.
You just humanized. You have taken something that was so ethereal and so unattainable and brought it so much closer to my fingertips by saying that. You have no idea.
Procrastinate.
Oh, this is a similarity between us.
Absolutely. I think
I should work at Disney.
I think the bigger the project, the more difficult it is to get started. I think, once you get started and you get into rhythm, you tend to go with it and it's exciting. But getting started can be the absolute worst part of it.
So this is not my question.
Okay.
So I want to go on record saying this
get
isn't
one
my
more.
question. Do you start on paper or do you start completely digitally?
It depends. Like, I'm kind of always doodling, so I'll start on paper from that way. Like, if I don't have a strong concept in mind, I start by drawing on paper, because I can do it sort of anywhere, sitting on the couch or something like that. But sometimes the concept comes quickly, or it's more about the execution than it is about the concept. I can jump right into Illustrator, and it's just as fast for me to do it there than it is to try to, get it in a sketch form. The thing with sketches for me is sketches have a sort of innate charm, and I think that can be distracting, especially when my work is so clean. I hate to show people sketches because the transfer from sketch to Illustrator, it's a huge jump, and you can't always capture that energy in an Illustrator thing. So I try to show things in Illustrator as much as possible so that there's no disconnect between what they saw in pencils and then the final product.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so here's my final question, and it might be a two-parter, but the way you answer it will maybe determine whether it is or not. May the 4th.
Yes.
Do you have anything planned, any special plans for your personal site or anything that you're doing in collaboration with Disney that people need to know about? Namely me, I don't care about anyone else, that I need to know about as far as work that you're putting out.
So I'm going to be at Wonderground Gallery next weekend, which is May 7th or something like that. And I am actually releasing a new Star Wars print for that. So it's not exactly on May 4th, but it's just right after. Just that tends to be how the releases go. I'm doing that one and then a Phantasmic print as well for that. Yeah, go ahead.
I believe that's the one that you gave us to use as promo for the series. Yeah. So you get a sneak peek of that by looking at our promo art for this.
Absolutely.
So
yeah,
good work.
And then I'll have something else on my personal side. I always try to put at least something up to celebrate because it's Star Wars Day. You got to do it. But I think that's about it probably. Are you doing something for May the 4th?
Oh, I don't know yet. We haven't talked about it. We probably should. It's tomorrow in terms of how the way this episode releases. It's tomorrow, so we may do a little something.
I'm only mildly interested in doing something.
Of course, that's what.
Shut up. He's not a huge fan of doing something. He'll do something maybe if it's on. Yeah. All right. So and then my other question is just very simple. The Tsum Tsums.
Yeah.
Is that how you pronounce them? Did you have to do? Did you help design that? Did you birth that, or is it very much in your style?
Thank you very much for asking this question, and I hope this clears it up for everyone listening. I did not create the concept for Tsum Tsum. That was created by Line in Japan for Disney. Okay. They created the game, and it started out as the game and then took off as merchandise. Since then, Disney Japan has approached me about doing the graphics version of the characters. So most of the time when you see the merchandise, that's my work. The flat Illustrator versions of the characters, that tends to be my work, and it is absolutely everywhere. I was in Japan in October, and that stuff is just everywhere. I started buying a lot of it, and then I had to stop. I'm like, it's everywhere. I can't buy every notepad and thing that has it on it. So that has probably been the most widely used work that I've done for the company, I think. But yeah, I didn't create it, so I want to make that clear.
But you're very much a part of it.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Yeah, I've been fortunate.
So your name is on it. It's just maybe not creator. It's collaborator.
There you go.
Cool. No, hey, you know what? It's another C word that works well.
Exactly.
And it's all over the place here too. I mean, I see them in Target.
Yeah.
I mean, there's all the different sizes, and I mean, it's just they're cool and they're fun, and it totally feels like it's something that you would put out. So makes sense that you're working in collaboration with that. All right, so tell everybody where they can find you, where they can go to support what you're doing, see your work, and send you money in exchange for goods and services.
So the best place probably is at my website, jmaruyama.com. That has links to all my social media for Twitter, for Instagram, and things like that. And yeah, I think that's probably the best place to go. It's J Maruyama pretty much everywhere you go, but I know that's not the easiest last name to spell, so.
It's okay. We will link to it in our show notes. So if you're listening to this and you're like, I don't even know where to start with that. Well, first of all, start with an M.
There you go.
There you go. I mean, it's pretty simple. But you can just go to our website and everything will be linked right there.
Absolutely.
Well, dude, thanks for taking a few minutes to chat with us. You're a rad dude, and your work inspires me and encourages me to keep going, because that idea of working with Disney maybe isn't so far unattainable as maybe I thought it was. So would you mind sticking around with us for just a couple more minutes and drawing some tokens?
No problem, actually. And before we do that, I wanted to just thank you guys for having me on. And I think I first listened to the show when you had Andrew Kolb on quite a while ago.
Yeah, wow.
And to see the progression that you guys have made from those shows to all the stuff that you did with the Mondo shows and then Creative South, it has been phenomenal. And it's so great to see how you guys have grown and sort of made the show into this really nurturing place for artists and creatives. And just congratulations to you guys for doing it.
Well,
dude,
thank
you.
Making us blush over here. Thanks so much. I mean, honestly, the only reason that we're able to do it is because there are tons and tons of really incredibly talented people who are just awesome and love to contribute back to the community. And, guys like you who are willing to sit down with guys like us and just chat and talk about stuff and be real with each other. So, we are just the conduit. We are not doing anything special.
Oh, you are.
But thank you for the kind words. All right, we're gonna stop being gushy over each other, and we're gonna draw some tokens. So up next, tokens. All right, so every week we draw tokens to figure out what exactly it is we're going to talk about the following week. And since Jerrod is here, he has kindly said that he will draw them for us. So I'm going to shuffle these up, and I'm going to need you to pick a number between 1 and 3, and that'll be for Patrick.
We'll go with 3.
3? Patrick, you're rocking TV and film, my
this,
friend.
This is going to be the week to do that.
Yep. And pick for Luke, and you're going to pick between 1 and 2.
We'll go with number 1.
Number 1, Luke, your toys and games.
Hey.
That means
is everybody
that
happy?
Jerrod did what very few have done, which is give us our own category. So
awesome. Good
work, my friend. Well, that's it for the interview portion of that. Man, like I said, I mean, after you talk to Jerrod the first time, like there's going to be a special connection.
That's true.
Yeah,
it kind of sounds funny when you say it that way, but
he's such a likable dude. He's so talented, and you would never know. My favorite story about Jerrod is sitting with him at Epcot, or near Epcot last year. We had breakfast with him one morning after the festival, and we're sitting there talking to him, and over his left shoulder is this massive window display in downtown Disney of all the Tsum Tsums. Yeah. And he's just sitting there chatting with us, and I'm like, that's like you did that. And he turns around and just looks, and that kind of humility is what I think draws me to him.
It was that same trip when we were at Wonderground, and there were 2 ladies that came up that were like, I think they had bought some of his merchandise, and they were really excited for the opportunity to get him to sign it. And I know there's part of Jerrod that he doesn't, like, he is incredibly humble, so there's part of him that's a bit embarrassed in those moments, but it was just getting to, like, understanding how down to earth he is, how humble it is, how much he doesn't take for granted the opportunity that he gets and what he gets to do every day. What a cool dude. And this is one of the guys that you'll get to hang out with at the meetup.
Don't take our word for it. All right, so what else is coming up, Patrick, as we sign off of this episode and let people go on with their lives?
So the biggest thing, and I'll make this one quick, is we're going to be at Creative South, and that's going to be in April. Go online, look for tickets, Creative South Georgia. No, is it Creative? It's just creativesouth.com. Don't
Might
let me
be
mess
Creative
it up.
South GA.
GA.com.
I don't know. We'll see.
Google Creative South. You'll find
you'll
it.
get
It'll be in show notes.
Yeah.
It'll be there. But the point is, we're doing a workshop at Creative South. This is the first day of Creative South is the workshops. We're doing one in the morning. And it is titled Podcasting with Dummies. And the idea, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be sitting down with you, and whether you have done a podcast before, whether you have equipment, if you don't have equipment, that's fine. If you have an idea for a show, you don't have an idea for your show. The idea is that we're going to sit down and we're going to walk you through all the steps from conceptualizing a show to selecting the right gear to actually producing it, the considerations you need to take, how you get it online, how you get it in front of people, how you can see how it's doing and make decisions about how to grow it, how we connect with people, how we schedule people, and these are the forms we send out or whatever. It's going to be very practical. How for over the course of this hour and a half that you can learn all the pieces required for starting, growing your own podcast. Yeah. And so you can go sign up if you go to the Creative South page. There's a workshops page. Link over to that. You can sign up for the workshop. It's
Podcasting with Dummies. To be clear, we are the dummies. Not
yes,
you.
Not you. It is us. We want to call it podcasting for dummies, but it's with dummies.
It's with
and
dummies.
That's us. So do that.
So yeah, go sign up for that. Other than that, check us out at mofonepodcast.com where you can find show notes and links to everything we just talked about. If this is on YouTube, just look at the links below. You can get to everything. Like and share and post and subscribe and all the things and all the different places. We're everywhere these days. iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify. Everywhere you like and share, leave a comment, leave a review, rate the show. It helps us out so much. It doesn't take very much time. It doesn't cost any money. Very helpful. If you want to drop a couple dollars in our pockets, you can go to patreon.com/MF1podcast for $5 each month. That gets you the blooper level, which gets you some extra stuff. There's even extra stuff from this episode, believe it or not. There's... For something this simple, which is literally just recording an intro and an outro,
there's some stuff.
Still some stuff. So that's how good. That's why we call it with dummies. But go ahead and just drop us a few bucks in there. It helps us out so much. But I think for now we're gonna head out of here. I'm Andrew.
I'm Patrick.
Peace out.
Bye.